and good morning, everyone. How are you today? I have to apologize for my voice. I've been talking a lot. Good morning. Welcome to Just Talking Business. I am Stephanie Van Vark, and I am a small business owner. And as you know, this is a show for, about, and by small business owners because we want to hear about people's business plan. So today we are talking to a very interesting partnership. They are in the Nutraceuticals business. That's a new term for me as well. And they're a relative startup. So of course, just as they were starting to get the momentum, in came the pandemic. So we're going to learn from them what they did to survive, stay afloat, and now they're on the other side thriving. We want to hear more about their business. And so I would like to introduce Miss Elizabeth Moss and Miss Retha Boone-Fye. Hi, how are you ladies today?
Good
Great. Good
morning.
morning.
Thank you for agreeing to join us today. So we'll start with asking you who you are and what do you do?
Go, Liz.
Well, my name is Elizabeth Moss. I am co-founder of Healing Leaf Miami. I'm also owner of Moss and Palm, and getting into the nutraceutical lifestyle brand business with my partner here, Retha, has been not only fulfilling but eye-opening, and I look forward to us speaking more on that this morning.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Did you want to add to that, Retha?
Just basically that both of us have Caribbean backgrounds. So we both laughed when we started getting together to talk about how when anything happened to us growing up, for example, if you got a cold, you went out in the yard and you bought some Cerasee and things of that nature. So we've always been kind of attuned to that as far as naturaceuticals, as you say. But it's been an interesting ride. I tell you, we started out like in 2018, and like you said, as soon as things got rolling, the pandemic hit. But
Right, right,
but
right.
we're good.
And it's
But what we
interesting that that whole health and wellness thing is now a part of everybody's vocabulary, which was not prior to the pandemic. So that's a good thing. And I think that's a great thing for your business. But as a startup, I mean, you essentially were sort of a startup during a pandemic. So how, what have you learned, I guess, in that spectrum? Because I feel like the pandemic put a highlight on what that whole startup spectrum is. What have you learned during that time that you may do differently or may keep, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, for me, what I learned is that there was a need for these types of products because even though the pandemic was going on, we were still getting calls for
Yes,
products,
yes.
and we had to quickly pivot to start making deliveries or curbside pickups for,
Okay.
so because people had, they had anxiety, they, depression, and a lot of the products that we sell aid in alleviating some of that. And so, yeah, I was sending products to Broward. People would
Hmm.
drive, come down to Miami Gardens, Miami Beach. I even had somebody who's visiting from the Bahamas that wanted some of our products, and because of the companies that we work with, and they list our location as one of the distributors, they were
Hmm.
able to reach out to us and still get product.
So,
Exactly.
so you have distributors that share your contact information so that they know now where to reach in their local market.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
cool, very
Yeah.
cool.
It's true. I've even had people come down from Port St. Lucie. Someone called me and said, my husband is in pain, I really want to get him away from the pharmaceuticals, and I'd like to make sure. So it's funny because we met halfway. We met like in Boynton Beach, so that she could come down and pick that product up. And then she called me later. And I think what really makes us feel good is when people call us and say, you know what? This stuff really works.
Hmm.
The pain has lessened, or the anxiety has kind of ceased. I had a lady call me the other day and said, "Thanks so much because I really, really appreciate what you're doing."
It's interesting. As I mentioned, Nutraceuticals is a new term for me. I really had never heard it until I saw it in your bio, Retha. So it lets me know this is definitely an interesting industry. However, I've listened to people in other industries who have some history to fall back on when it comes to times of where they have to ebb and flow, but you really don't. This is such a new industry relatively. Are you learning through rapid fire? Or are you learning through other markets? How are you able to look at models to help you grow in this business? And are there models?
Yeah, well, basically there are. You see, this is basically a new industry, particularly
Mhm,
in our community. So one
mhm.
of the very first things we had to do was convince people that we weren't dealing drugs. We were dealing. When I would tell people, "Hey, I have some CBD," and they'd be like, "Are you allowed to sell that?" So, so we had to let them know that in
Mhm,
2018, the Farm Bill was signed by then President Trump,
mhm.
that basically took hemp, which is what the cannabis family is from, off of the substance list, that's illicit substance list, if you will. So what happened
Okay.
is there's a whole industry that's built around hemp and what's called CBD. People are not, and I had to tell people it's legal on the federal standpoint. And then we had to wait
Mhm.
until the states caught up. So in 2019, just as the pandemic started, Florida made hemp legal. And it's a
Okay.
big industry, actually, and one that our minority group, is not really that familiar with. So we had to go in with an education standpoint too.
Mhm,
So to let
mhm.
people know, we're not selling you something that would get you in trouble. I've had firefighters and police officers say to me, "I can't have this stuff in my system when you do the tincture." But we're telling them that it's legal. But we also tell them, hey, a caveat, we don't want you to get in trouble. So if you're afraid of doing it, let us know. But anyone else, it's fine.
And it's not just tincture, it's
Yeah,
also topicals.
exactly.
Mhm.
So,
Right, right.
balms and salves and things of that nature. So it's not just, and it's not just gummies, which is now expanded in the
Big
market,
deal.
because at first
Mhm,
it was just the tinctures, it was just the bombs, it was the vaping.
mhm.
But now it's also the gummies, and then there's the D8s. That's a whole other level of it. But what has happened was, what was good for us is that we were proactive in going out and educating ourselves in other markets while
Mhm,
things were not
mhm.
quite, but things hadn't really caught up in Florida, because Florida was considered a gray state. So going out to
Right.
some of the other states that were already doing things, we were able to then prepare ourselves to model our business so that it would be right on time. Especially, even though we're small, we
Hmm.
wanted to play like the big boys.
I
Hmm.
hear you. So do you have a storefront, or are you primarily through an online platform sales?
It's funny you should ask that. We were able to pivot. We had one store located in Miami Gardens, and we actually had a small space. But now we've relocated to Overtown. So we're in Overtown, and we're probably going to be launching our online within the next 3 weeks.
Oh,
There was some hesitancy because of the legalities, and like Liz was saying, we had to educate ourselves even as to what products we needed to put on our online store. But
okay.
we were able to pivot, like she said, by delivery. People would call me, "I'll meet you at such and such." And we were able to do it that way. That's how we survived. And the other thing that we did was we did education of ourselves, of what's
Mhm,
going on. We took classes. I know that I've learned an awful lot through these classes, through
mhm.
Bayside Foundation and the GMCV. I want to give them a shout out, because they were the ones that really helped us to stay in that arena. So that's what's
Okay.
happening.
and she's being very humble. She also went to Tallahassee and
Okay.
got
Okay.
with the folks that were doing things so that we could also find out
Yes.
what was coming down the line.
And,
So,
and in that vein, we found out that minorities are basically underrepresented in this industry. In North Florida, they have hemp farms. What happened is a lot of them, and I say them, farmers, lost their crops during that hurricane back in 2017. So they were trying to build back, and they were trying to look for a product and a process that would help them to come back faster. So when I went to Tallahassee, I mean, I was totally green, literally. And when I went up and talked to some of them, I actually went to the office of the new cannabis czar, Holly. I can't think of Holly's last name, but I went up to see Holly and I was like, hey, I was in her face and she hadn't even moved into her office yet. And she was like, well, who are you? And I said, I'm Retha Miami and I want to get into this hemp business. So I went up to the conference. They had a conference. As a matter of fact, they have one coming up in April of this coming year. I know Liz and I probably end up going. But I learned so much, and it is such a big industry. The farmers really latched into this because I learned a lot about that farm industry and the restrictions basically that have been placed on minorities, because you have to own land, you have to be able to process, you have to be able to deliver the product. And a lot of us don't have that. So that's one of the other things that I'm fighting for. And I will be going back up there to talk to them about it. I'm going to talk to some of the state legislators about having access, minorities having access to this industry.
and her
That's
last
very
name
interesting that you talked a lot about the legal, because that was one of the questions I had about, this is so new. And when it first came about, I was hearing about even marketing companies that got into the industry were having problems legally. So I would imagine that you both are sort of always on top of what the legalities are. And quite frankly, that could, and is that the thing that hinders you the most or is the most challenging in this business? Aside from something like a pandemic, what is the most challenging aspect of this business? And I would imagine that's it for now, right now.
I guess Liz and I both laugh at each other when we talk about our Caribbean backgrounds, because we've all come from that standpoint of we have to have tree jobs just to make it, So we just don't look at it as a hindrance. We look at it as a challenge that we meet head on. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to handle it. So, and I know that Liz has been, let me tell you, phenomenal when it comes to books. I'm the one I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell and I'm going to make, but then when you ask me for backup, like records and stuff, I'm like, I don't, that's not my strength, but that's what we bring. That's the dynamic that we bring. I'm the person that goes out. Now Liz does some good sales, but I'm the one that walk up to people and say, hey, you look like you got a lamp. I got something for that, that kind of stuff. That's me. That's my personality. Okay.
So did you two talk about that before you became partners? Did y'all sit down and say, this is where my strengths are? This is where, because you good at leading me right into the question I'm gonna ask Retha. Is this where, what's gonna be my role and what's gonna be your role? Was that a formal conversation or did you kind of fall into it?
I don't think we really actually sat down and talked about it. I'll let Liz talk about it a little bit, but it started out when she actually went to China for a mission, and this was something that was connected with her employment. And I mentioned to her, hey, when you go over, can you start looking at some sources, for this? And she didn't really have a lot of time to do it, obviously, because she was on a mission. But when she came back, I said, I'd really like to get it. So we kind of just like fell into it. And from a formal standpoint, she was the one that when I got the paperwork, the incorporation, made sure that all paperwork was straight in Tallahassee, the licenses and the things of that nature. And I was like all over the place. And at the time, I was actually caring for my mom who was ill. And I just did not have the wherewithal and the strength to do that. So she carried it from that standpoint. And then I also got pivoted into another side thing, and that was into mindfulness. And so we've created this kind of like this atmosphere, this universe of natural wellness and nutraceuticals included and those kinds of things. But I'll hand it
Mhm.
off to Liz so she can talk about her involvement.
Well, we've done a few things together.
Yes.
So in the process during our work environment, and uh, being that I had that experience with her, I felt that this was definitely a good opportunity and an opportunity that we could work together on. And of
Mhm.
course, there was things that needed to be done, such as finding out more about the industry, making sure that we had certain things in place, such as, the legal piece of it, getting our
Mhm.
agreement together, getting our accountant together. Because of this industry, there were certain limitations that
Mhm.
we needed to find out about, because there are a lot of banks that would not um, take money from
Mhm.
businesses that
Yeah, we can.
sold CBD
Mhm.
Okay.
products. So there were a whole lot of intricacies that
Mhm.
made it even more complicated. So we actually had to find new ways and also get the right legal guidance in
Mhm.
order to, bring push forward and bring the business to where it is today, where we can actually say that we've created those relationships. We have strong relationships with our distributors, where we've vetted their products, because that's a whole other thing. We have to make sure
Mhm.
that they're also following the federal guidelines,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
as they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So
Right, exactly. You can still go to jail and be ignorant of the law. So when you say legal advice, that means you had to get an attorney. You had to get a team around you to help guide you.
Mhm.
yes, we
Mhm.
did.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
So
we did not totally go in blindly, let's say.
okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, before we hopped on the show, you said something interesting, Retha, that I really want to get a little bit more into as well. You mentioned that you manufacture a lot of your own products. That Liz manufactures a lot of your own products. Manufacturing is always very interesting to me because of, there's a lot of investment that has to happen in that arena. So how did that come about? And how is that played in this pandemic world? I know a lot of people who are in that manufacturing space are having problems with shipping and the supply chain, as we've been talking about over and over on the news. um in a $61 billion industry, I can only imagine the horror that you are going through trying to get
Well, that's where having
product.
good. Oh, you
Yeah.
froze for a second. I thought you were
Go
finished.
ahead, go ahead.
And I was saying that's where good suppliers come in.
Mhm.
Suppliers that have strong mechanisms that you can
Mhm.
call upon them to get whatever you need as quickly as you need it.
Mhm.
So we took the time to make sure that a lot of our suppliers, whether it be local or out of state, they have mechanisms that are built in that we won't have to worry about, hey, we're not able to access products, so that we'll lose customers because we're not able to
Okay.
give them what they need.
Mhm.
The whole manufacturing piece of it, I work a lot with therapeutic grade essential oils, because like
Mhm.
I mentioned before, we are also a lifestyle brand. So if someone is interested in improving parts of their lives, and if anybody knows about aromatherapy and how it affects the ovulatory
Mhm.
system and mood and all of that, that all plays into having a product that's natural, that also helps to complement your lifestyle.
Mhm.
So being able to make soaps or roll-ons or any kind of self-care product also adds to complementing the other pieces of the hemp or CBD or, mindfulness or, whether it be yoga. So it's a whole complementary ecosystem that we're trying to not only build, but expand on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
So
think what happens is Liz's experience, particularly in marketing and things of that nature, has helped because typically when I do a mindful session, I'll take some of the essential oils that she produces to give to some of our customers, and it makes a huge difference. It makes a
right,
huge difference. Mhm.
right. I read a book one time that talked about free, like those little touches you could add that really accentuates people buying later on because they feel
Exactly,
like they
exactly,
really
exactly.
need it. It's a must have opportunity. So this is an industry that I read is a $61 billion industry, which is actually just it's amazing to me because again, this really sort of just became an explosive industry. Retha, I think I talked to you earlier when I said I went to my local drugstore and I saw they have CBD products as well.
Mhm.
How are you prepared, or are you working with other partners in this industry to, I guess, stay competitive when you are, doing what you do? And so is CVS, and so is Walgreens. Like, have you had those conversations? And how are you and partners like you doing that?
Well, I think the very first thing that came into our mind is do not be afraid. We have to make absolutely sure that we find what our niche is and stick to it. And we have found that when we offer a holistic, see, because you may be able to go to CVS to buy the hemp product, but if it's a lifestyle, people
Mhm,
continue to come back to us. So we have like a dedicated source of people who come to us and ask, hey, that cream really works and stuff like that.
mhm,
And I think when you look at it from that standpoint and you don't think of it as something that, oh my God, if I don't sell X amount, we're gonna go under. We have organically grown. And I think that
okay,
that's one of our strengths. We can offer you personalized service, whereas they cannot. So
right.
that's how we pivoted. So Liz, maybe want to add to that.
No, that you hit it right on the head. The concierge piece of it, that
Mhm.
that
Okay.
that personal touch, that you're
Mhm.
not going to get when you go to CVS necessarily. As a matter of fact, they're getting even further away from the personal touch because if you want to check out, you got to go to a machine to check out. You can hardly find somebody to check you out anymore.
Right. And it was in a little box right next to the pharmacy. I was like, well, can I ask somebody some questions?
Exactly.
Which you're right. And I really think you hit the nail on the head with there's going to be a level of education that comes with this because I don't think we fully understand how this all works.
Mhm.
So I do think, sort of that personalized care is going to be very helpful for those of us who want to use the product, but need to do it carefully in a careful manner,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So now in 2020, they said that sales went up exponentially, which is, smack dab sort of in the middle of the pandemic. But investment went down. Does that say to you that that this is now a business that can sustain itself? Or is that saying to you this is maybe a fly by night business that people are sort of quickly investing in and getting out of it? What does that say to you as a owner?
To me, it says that they've put a lot of barriers. So
Oh,
the folks that got in early and were able to plant their flag, they've, established themselves. And unless you have a whole lot of money, you're not going to be able to get in. And of
really?
course, I mean, the state of Florida, I believe there's a lawsuit because they're saying only, I think, three or four individuals that really hold the major licenses. And to get one of those licenses, it's like $60,000 at least.
Whoa.
So um, it, people are making money, as you said, but of
Mhm.
course,
Absolutely.
there's a
But it's
barrier
certain
to
people.
entry.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of barriers. A lot of barriers. Okay.
Whoa. Okay, so that didn't come up for me. That's again that legal thing.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That's
Yeah.
very interesting. So what's the answer? What's the solution? Or is most other industries may have some kind of union in place or some kind of organization or association that rallies, that lobbies, that it does this industry have anything like that? And is that the next level for really creating opportunity for others in this industry?
Actually, there's a lot of organizations, and particularly in the state of Florida, there's the Hemp Association, FDAC, and it's all under the guidance of the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. So you have that to contend with. You also have the medical minorities in medical marijuana, because that's a whole nother leaf, okay, if you will. Marijuana, especially medical marijuana, that is just actually where the money is. There are a lot of barriers keeping you, and particularly when I say you, minorities, from getting into that. So there are organizations that deal with hemp, there are organizations that deal with marijuana, and you have to keep yourself informed and educated about some of the things that are coming up, either in the legislature or things of that nature.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is the goal to expand? You have the shop in Overtown. Is the goal to ultimately expand to have more locations, to really build your online platform? What's the 3 to 5 year strategy?
I was going to say we're in the process of working that out now because we want to move to online, particularly, and that's one of the things that we're concentrating on, keeping ourselves educated and up to date on the industry and what's happening, and at some point making that leap to a higher, format. But at this point, and it's not even as if we had to fight to survive, because for some reason, like Liz said, a lot of people were suffering from anxieties, and they wanted to make sure that, I know, for example, a friend of mine who has migraines, she contacted me the other day, and it makes us feel good when people say to us, hey, that stuff really helped me. Between the tinctures, the balms, we even sell soap, and we find that soap makes a huge difference. In fact, one of my best customers called me and she said, man, this soap is great. And the funny part about it is I hadn't even thought about it. So I started using it and I was like, hey, this is really good.
You got to use your own product.
Yeah.
You got to use your own product. You got to use your own product.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about quality, not necessarily quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it would be great to expand eventually. But I think if we continue to deliver quality service and products, then, we've already won, and anything else is gravy at the end of the day.
Great. Well, good luck to both of you. I would like to ask you before we go, how can we find you? We want to make sure we can find you in the future, especially tell me where your store is so I can go. It's right down the street, I think.
It's right down the street. Right from you. Okay. We're at 801 Northwest 3rd Avenue, Suite 102. And basically, we have a sign that lets you know that we're open by appointment. So if you need to get us, the website should be going up very shortly, and that would be www.healingleafmiami.com. And also
Instagram, Healing Leaf Miami.
Come on, Liz. Instagram.
Where else can we find you?
Like you said, we're leveling up. We were able to survive and thrive. And I think that I can only see more growth for us in the future.
Were you able to get funding during all of this also? To help support?
Yeah, right. The it's Southeast Overtown Park West. They were very, very helpful. And as you know, we applied for and received a grant, and that's helping us to grow as well.
I did too. I was lucky and receptive from the Community Redevelopment Agency, Southeast Overtown Park West Community Redevelopment Agency. That's a mouthful, right?
That's a mouthful, yeah.
So yes, we have to be thankful for them For sure. Well, thank you, ladies, again for agreeing to join me today. We will be doing a rewind of this on Thursday on YouTube. So share it with your family and friends. We want to make sure everybody knows more about your business, but we really want to make sure for those small business owners who need that teaching tool, and maybe even if you're trying to get into that industry, it seems like education is going to be the key.
Yes, we will be doing some presentations. We've done some community presentations in the past, and we'll be returning to doing that as well.
Yes.
When you do that, please share it with me. I'll share it with everyone.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Elizabeth,
Thank you
want
for
to
the
say?
opportunity.
Don't forget, this weekend we're doing a pop-up shop at the Harvest. Harvest pop-up shop. If anybody wants to find us at the AME Church, which is, I believe,
Allen Chapel, right?
Allen Chapel. Yes. So anybody wants to find us, definitely send us
You're doing that at a
on
church?
Instagram. Yes.
You're doing it at a church?
Yes. And we'll also be at Uptown 7th Avenue, that fest, the music fest.
Okay, I saw they're doing it as well.
Okay.
Very cool. Yes, we'll make sure you send that information out. I'll get it out to everybody.
See, we're evangelizing.
Exactly.
It's natural. Okay.
Oh, that's funny. That ought to let you know it's natural.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. That was a great show. I learned so much about the pharmaceuticals business, especially the fact that the naturalceuticals business, especially that it has really become a part of our day-to-day lives. And I'm very happy to know that that is an opportunity for small business owners. So we will be back here again next Tuesday, 10 a.m. And so until then, you have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.